You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast. And again, as promised, I brought you another separate interview from the explainer interview that I brought, or the explainer episode that I brought to you on Tuesday, given the absence of my trusted co-hosts. It's just me doing all the work this week. I've had to do it a little bit different. I've had to improvise a little bit, but as promised, I've got the West Ham women's section this week, and ahead of the Arsenal game at the weekend. And joining me this week is Nancy Gillen, who's the editor of GiveMeSport Women, also a colleague of mine as well at Snack Media and GiveMeSport. Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about West Ham and Arsenal as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been exciting season so far for both sides. So let's start with Arsenal, Nancy. Superb start to the season, 5 wins from 5 in the WSL, scoring 19 and conceding just twice. New boss Jonas has been a bit of a revelation so far, hasn't he? Thrashing Tottenham, thrashing Man City. What have you made of Arsenal starts the season under Jonas?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I think a little bit surprising in that I didn't really expect Arsenal to do so well. I was kind of thinking they'd be contending for the title, but not having been so dominant and having beaten kind of Chelsea and City already. So it's been a really, really good start, and it's quite hard to see another team beating them at the moment. So obviously that's quite a hard task for West Ham at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal haven't won the league since 2019. Won it a record 15 times. Not won an FA Cup since 2016. Also a record 14 time winners. Is this something that Jonas is under pressure, under a bit of pressure to do in terms of delivering at least one trophy this season, given the illustrious history of Arsenal women so far?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like you said, I think Arsenal women are just kind of associated with winning trophies. I think there has been a bit of a lull. Like there was that league title a couple of years ago, but that was quite, it wasn't like a consecutive one or successive. It was kind of, a bit in the middle of a relatively trophyless period. And I think when Joe Montemurro, the previous manager, was in charge, I think there was a general feeling among fans that he wasn't quite delivering in terms of the squad he had and the fact that, Arsenal were not quite getting the amount of trophies that they used to. So it definitely is a pressure for Jonas to be getting some trophies. And I think, he's definitely he's on the right track for sure, because it's looking good in the league, and there's still the League Cup, FA Cup, even the Champions League to fight for. So I think it's looking very positive at the moment.
In terms of the squad, pretty star-studded. You've got the England stars like Jordan Nobbs, Beth Mead, Nikita Paris. But the obvious one that stands out to me, and I'm sure many other fans, is Vivianne Miedema, who is just a goal machine. I was looking at her record earlier today, and it's 103 goals in 110 Arsenal appearances, 64 and 71 in the WSL alone. And a career record is 238 goals in 260 appearances in all competitions. And she's even scored 85 and 103 for the Netherlands. Literally is a goal machine. Can she be stopped? And if she can you let us know so we can pass the message on to
I think, her record is ridiculous. And I think as well, when you consider her age, I think she's only 25. It's, she became like the Netherlands' all-time top scorer, I think, men and women, something like that, at like the age of 21, 22. She's, astonishing. I think it is possible to deal with her. I think essentially some teams have done it. You just kind of, put all your defenders on her and make sure she doesn't get much of the ball. And when that happens, sometimes she drops deep quite a lot and, obviously isn't in those goal scoring opportunities. But then I think the problem with the Arsenal squad now is, not the problem for me, but the problem for other teams, is that if you do that with Miedema, there's enough other attacking players in the team that will just capitalise on the fact that she's, not in the position that she's meant to be. There's kind of too much attacking talent to deal with, which is what I think has happened for all the teams they've played so far. So I think it is possible to deal with her alone, but then when she's backed up by so many other kind of amazing strikers and wingers and attacking midfielders, that's when it's defenses get really overwhelmed.
Moving on to West Ham, Oli Harder has had a tough start last season when he came in. I think he only won one game all season. Well, ever since he took over, I think he took over sort of around about Christmas time, I think. Only won one game beyond that. Managed to stay out. But this season started really, really well. I mean, there was a lot of upheaval in the summer in terms of players, but unbeaten in 5 games since the opening day of the season. It was 2-0 to Brighton, but since then they've been unbeaten. Won away at City 2-0, thrashed newly promoted Leicester 4-0. They're sixth in the WSL at the moment. What have you made of the progress under Oli Harder, given what seemed to be some worrying signs last season since he arrived?
Yeah, it's definitely been really positive. I think I expected West Ham to struggle a bit again this season. Yeah, last season they were, in a relegation battle essentially. Stayed up, but I wasn't quite sure how they'd managed to, go essentially improve themselves quickly enough to not be in a relegation battle again. But yeah, the start to the season has been really positive. I think that Man City win is the highlight, and I imagine that has given them kind of a whole world of confidence. I think at times it's been a little bit erratic. Like I do think I think it was the draw against both Villa and Birmingham. And then I think if you were looking at those fixtures on paper, they would be the ones where West Ham would be expecting to get 3 points, probably
Yeah.
in comparison to the matches against City where they wouldn't be. So it's almost like it's been a bit unpredictable, like dropping points for the teams they should be beating, but then against the teams that they probably would have lost to last season, they're actually. But there's definite signs of improvement. And I think, yeah, just maybe a little bit of consistency. Obviously, it's great to have an unbeaten run, but if they can be getting the consistency in terms of wins, I think it's a really good foundation so far, and they can definitely grow on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that in both of those games that you referenced, I think there were late goals as well that we conceded that kind of stopped it from being 100% record. I think, well, since the Brighton defeat, but with those foundations that you mentioned, I mean, there was a bit of upheaval. Like I said, 11 players in, 10 out during the summer. But 4 of those new signings have all found themselves on the score sheet so far. Claudia Wilker, Tamika Yallop, Yui Hesegawa, and Lucy Parker all hitting the ground running, kind of, since they joined the club in the summer. Which players have you seen at West Ham and sort of gone, yeah, they look like they're going to be really, really strong signings for the club?
Yeah, I think Claudia Walker, who you mentioned there, she's definitely been probably the most impressive player I think so far. I think that's a really smart signing. I think especially coming from Birmingham, where again, kind of a team that struggles normally to kind of get up the table. And she has quite a lot of WSL experience as well with Everton and Liverpool. So I think she seems to have kind of found a team where she can really thrive, and she seems to be doing well. Hasegawa as well, another. I think having those players with that international experience as well. So Adriana Leon as well. I think both of those two players have been really good, and obviously just have that kind of pedigree. That's they play for their international team, and Leon won an Olympic gold medal over the summer. So you've got that kind of winning mentality now as well in the team. So those two players as well have been really impressed me. So I think there's quite a strong core now of those players that are kind of like raising the standards of the other players as well.
Do you think with that business, and given, as you mentioned, the international experience that they've now got the winning mentality that Oli Harder's kind of instilling into the team with those additions to the teams, what do you think the team's capable of moving forward? Do you think can they keep the current run up? Can they realistically hope for a top half finish this season, or do you think that it's probably going to take a couple more windows and maybe 1 or 2 more seasons before they can start competing at the right end of the table?
I think they I mean, this season's really interesting because it's been a bit unexpected. Say, for instance, Spurs. I wasn't expecting Spurs to do well as well as they are. I think there's a number of teams that you look at and you think West Ham should definitely this season be finishing above I'd say like Birmingham, Leicester, Aston Villa. Spurs, if they don't maintain this run, but it's hard to know whether these runs are forms that teams like Spurs are in, whether they're going to maintain them. Again, Reading as well, I think, is a team that West Ham can finish above. So I think if they're looking at the season, they should be aiming for the top half of the table. Yeah. And then from there, I mean, it's quite hard when you've got those, City, Arsenal, Chelsea. That's quite very ambitious to say we're going to be, contending with those three and going for Champions League places. And especially when underneath that you've got Everton and Man U. But I think if West Ham kind of have a really solid season this season, finish, towards the top half, maybe in the middle somewhere, and then next season, again with another summer of good recruitment, you could be starting to think about really challenging Everton, Man U for those kind of positions, and then see where you go from there.
We've asked quite a few guests on this segment in the past about the TV deal. And we were looking at it previously when it was initially announced, because this is the first year with the deal in place, isn't it? And we were looking at it going, well, perhaps this is an opportunity for clubs like West Ham and other clubs in and around them in the WSL that don't have a great amount of investment to potentially start competing a little bit closer to the bigger clubs. Would you agree with that? Do you think it has opened it up a little bit more for some of those clubs like West Ham to perhaps be a little bit more competitive?
Yeah, I think so. I think it has put kind of more money into the women's game as a whole. So I think it is, yeah, like you said, if a team like West Ham don't get as much funding from the main club as, City or Chelsea, it's kind of another source of revenue. I suppose it could have the other side of it could be that as women's football becomes more of like a product or something that is actually, making teams money, quite like a profitable area, that might encourage clubs like City and Chelsea to invest more in the teams, and then maybe there might be a bigger gap. But then as well, maybe West Ham will look at women's team and be like, actually, there's this big kind of area which is showing real profit and growth, so we're invest more in as well. So I think there's a lot of different ways it could go. I think it could be beneficial to the teams that don't get as much funding, but at the same time, it could maybe even increase the gap between those teams that are pouring loads of money into it and the teams that are kind of not as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of hope at West Ham that with the current takeover talks and rumours going sort of surrounding the club at the moment, that whoever does come in will be willing to throw more money at the women's side of it, because they've already shown, particularly at the beginning of this season, that they can compete at a good level, and with the TV deal as well, I think there's certainly a belief there that it would be beneficial for the club to invest more and fund it more, and be a lot more competitive. But let's look ahead to Sunday's game at Meadow Park, Bournemouth. It's literally 5 minutes down the road from me, and I'm not going to be able to go because West Ham are home to Liverpool. I'm gutted because I was looking at this game going, I'm definitely going to go to that. But 6:45 kickoff at Meadow Park in Bournemouth. Arsenal v West Ham, Sunday the 7th of November. How do you see this one going, Nancy? Do you only see an Arsenal win like many will be predicting, or do you think West Ham might be well placed for an upset?
I mean, it's really, really hard. As I said earlier, it's hard to see any team beating Arsenal at this point. But I think it is possible. I suppose you could look at the fact that maybe West Ham's players have had a bit more of a break. Arsenal were playing last weekend in the FA Cup semi-final, while West Ham weren't. There's probably, I think, if you looked at it, there's probably more Arsenal players that went on international duty compared to players at West Ham. So, maybe they'd be more rested, and in that sense, maybe then they're edge Arsenal if some of the Arsenal players have tired legs. But it is quite hard to see West Ham getting a result from this. I think, like I was saying, the Arsenal attack is just so kind of overwhelming, and it never stops. Like there's been so many matches where it's got to like 80 minutes and Arsenal winning 3-0, and then Tobin Heath, two-time World Cup winner, will come on. It's just kind of relentless. So I think for West Ham, if they do want to get something out of it, they're just going to have to be defensively 100%, like completely solid, no mistakes, concentration has got to be kind of constant, no lapses in concentration. Otherwise, that's when Arsenal will punish them. And then hopefully just if they do get a chance, be really, really clinical with it. So it's essentially kind of asking West Ham to have a perfect game in defensively, and if they get a shot on goal, converting that, which is obviously a tough ask of any team. And yeah, if they don't do that, then I can't see much else apart from an Arsenal win really. But this season has been very unexpected, so you never
Yeah,
know. Like I wouldn't want to say that's definitely the way I think it's going to go, but I think it's quite likely.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like a tough task ahead for Oli Harder's team. Let's have a prediction, score prediction from you.
Um, I'm gonna say I think West Ham could score potentially. I'm gonna say 3-1 to Arsenal.
I think that'd be quite. I think they'd be quite happy with that
Yeah, I
from
think
from a goal
probably.
difference point of view as well.
Yeah,
Um, I'm gonna remain positive. I'm gonna go for a draw. I'm gonna say 2-2. I love predicting 2-2. Do it all the time. If I'm unsure, so I'm gonna go 2-2. I think a very good start to the season, and as you quite rightly said, they've had a little bit more of a break. They're a little bit more fresher.
yeah.
So yeah,
And they've beaten City as well, so they do have that already in the bag. So they could
exactly.
do it again.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to back them 2-2. That'll be a good point away from home. Well, Nancy, thanks for coming on for the first time on the We Are West Ham podcast. I suppose it'd be a good opportunity before we let you go, just to let our listeners know a little bit more about Give Me Sport Women and the work you do over there.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been going for about 6 7 months now. And yeah, we're essentially just aiming for it to become the home of women's sport. Obviously cover football, that is the most popular sport in the country. So the WSL and a bit of championship as well. So kind of we do a bit of, analysis, the five best players from the weekend, kind of looking at some of the off pitch issues as well. But then if anyone's interested in any other sport, we cover, tennis, combat sports, a bit of athletics, a bit of everything. So yeah, if you want to kind of be more informed of women's football or women's sport as a whole, then yeah, Give Me Sport Women is the place to go.
I will vouch for that. I suppose I have. I suppose I have to. But 100%. I think the work you and the team are doing over there have been fantastic, and I would definitely urge our listeners who are interested in women's sport, want to keep up to date with it, want to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the world of women's sport, then definitely make sure you visit givemesport.com/women's hyphen sport. And yeah, there's plenty of content there to keep up to date with everything going on. But Nancy, thanks again for joining us this week, and hopefully we'll get you on later on in the season when the return leg is, or even before that, just to talk about West Ham, West Ham women in general.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime.
Great stuff. Well,